Hey everyone, I want to share something that's really helped me recharge and refocus. You know how life can just get overwhelming sometimes, right? I found that taking a break to focus on my own well-being can actually make me more productive. And I discovered that firsthand at Mountainside Lodging and Retreats. It's not just a place to stay, it's truly a sanctuary for self-care. Whether it was taking peaceful walks in nature, cozying up by the fire, or simply finding some quiet time to reconnect with myself, Mountainside offers exactly what you need to reset and recharge. Now, if you're feeling like you need that kind of escape, here's the best part. Use promo code IWD406 for a very special discount this season. Trust me, you'll leave feeling truly refreshed, renewed, and ready to take on whatever's next. So if you're ready for a real break, use our code and book your stay today. You're listening to the IWD406 Podcast with your hosts, Julie Wells and Kate McLaughlin. Today on the podcast, we have Julie Tickle. Julie joined the Dream Adaptive Recreation team in January 2017 in a program-facing role and moved into the executive director position in June of 2018. She grew up near balmy Buffalo, New York as a 4-season fresh air kid. She was a 2-sport and All-American athlete in college, earning a BS in Psychology and M.S. in Sports Administration. Julie's career in adaptive sports began in 2007 in Colorado, where she worked for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Highlights of her tenure included sporting the 2010 Winter Paralympics in Vancouver, the 2011 Para-PanAmerican Games in Guadalajara, and the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. Her free time was spent exploring the Rockies, where she fell in love with mountain life. The daughter of 2 teachers, one in special education, Julie was taught at an early age the importance of inclusion and ensuring people with disabilities are represented in all aspects of the community. Welcome, Julie Tickle.
Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
Yay! Wow, impressive background.
Oh, thank you.
We're gonna get into all of it. I love the balmy Buffalo, New York.
The
yes.
alliteration.
Is it balmy? It can be.
Yeah.
Right?
It is at Lake Ontario,
Lake
which
Erie.
Great Lake? Okay.
Very
With
cool.
lots of lake effect snow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's chilly. Ugh, bitter chilly. Yes.
That's a damp chili on the East Coast, too.
That's true. And then in the plains, it's nothing. It's just wet. I don't know why. What? Anyway, so we obviously know you did not grow up in Montana. Talk to us a little bit about growing up in the balmy Buffalo, New York.
Western New York is really beautiful. I think a lot of people think about New York. When they think about New York, they think about New York City and that side of the state, maybe even the Adirondacks further north.
It's beautiful.
But the whole western part of New York State is rolling farmlands, just a lot of wineries, believe it or not, a lot of industry that has ebbed and flowed, similar to cities like Detroit, where, you know, a lot of blue collar factories in the Buffalo area and even in my hometown, which is an hour southwest of Buffalo. Because of the proximity to the Great Lakes, there was a lot of industry. And unfortunately, over the years, that has gone overseas or just left the area, which has led to a lot of challenges in places like where I grew up. Definitely a blue collar area, but a strong community with a strong sense of helping your neighbor. So it was a great place to grow up.
It's a good community.
Access to the water, access to the rolling hills, and a lot of nature. Not being near big cities, there was a lot of...
What was your favorite thing that you did as a kid?
Ooh, I think just hiking in the woods.
Yeah.
I have a really strong sense of going out in nature and just being able to appreciate all the small things that's found in nature, just quiet walks and really appreciating the natural
fall.
beauty.
I love fall because the noise is so loud of the crunching leaves
And
the swishing sounds and all that. Yeah.
In New York with all the different colors.
Yes.
Yeah, because you guys grew up in a similar area, like the whole
Yep. I grew up in Vermont, and then I had a lot of family in New York, and then I lived in Ithaca, New York, for a little bit too. And
There's nothing like going if you travel through that area during the fall foliage. It's unreal. It's like almost your eyes are on fire from all the colors. And I think Montana has It's beautiful in the fall, but it's just all yellow. It's
Unless
bright
you're
yellow.
in Kalispell where they've planted maple
that's
trees
true.
or
Where
something.
they planted the maple
Where
trees.
They planted them, yeah.
So, okay, so you grew up and you were hiking. Now, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had a brother.
You have a brother. Okay. And then let's talk about your mom and dad. So I know your dad was in special education
He was for over 30 years.
for over 30 years. So you grew
He
up.
even took the long route.
Yeah. And then he didn't completely go away and he substitute taught for a few years after that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think when you love teaching, it's like you come back. Don't you? I think so. I don't know. I know my mom came back and substitute taught after she retired. Okay. Growing up with a dad that taught special education, what was that like? Did you get a lot of exposure? Did you go into his classroom? What was that like?
Yeah, it was really amazing now looking back. As a kid, I think I was taught from an early age the importance that people with disabilities, their disability doesn't define them. It's just a part of who they are. And normalizing disabilities in my home was something that was very familiar. I also have a cousin with a disability who's older than me. So I think I had a lot of exposure to that growing up through multiple ways, but my family was definitely the type that would be very welcoming to neighbors and friends and relatives, and then just the disabled community.
I love that. Was your mom a teacher as well?
My mom was a second grade teacher.
A second grade teacher. Okay. So you have this educational influence. Did you want to become a teacher?
I think a lot of people thought that was my path in life. And although I have the utmost respect and appreciation for teachers, I definitely crossed my mind to be a teacher and a coach or something like that, but I found my own way.
Oh,
Yeah. You were so into sports in high school, too. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think growing up, my dad was an amazing athlete himself, and just growing up in a really community-minded, kid-centric area, that all the traditional sports were available to me, and really blessed that my folks had the capacity to enroll me in different sports. Probably T-ball.
T-ball.
I'm guessing. I think T-ball and soccer. I think you could start soccer at 4, probably T-ball around the same time in my area. So
did you just my daughter's, she just got the bug. She likes to compete.
Yeah.
And I was more of, everybody doing okay? Let's have fun. Like I was not competitive. Where were you, Kate? Were you competitive?
Yeah, I've always wanted to get the ball and do things.
Did you really? I was
but I played defense. It was different. It was not like I was.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get the ball and stop it. So
I
had a mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I think I was always competitive. My brother was older than me by 4.5 years. So I think that, instills in you a level of toughness and competitive drive. And I just remember growing up, side story, playing cards and other things that probably shouldn't have been as competitive, but I would get so upset if I lost or thought I was going to lose. So I think something innate in me was just extremely competitive from the get-go.
I love that you said it's not necessarily true, but I know I've seen with my daughter older brothers, and that even like you said, playing Monopoly or cards, it gets so serious.
Yes.
I'm like, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah. Before my mom got into teaching, she babysat in the home before all the rules and regs. And we had a slew of kids, and we had an extra lot next door that was the kickball lot and everything. So I think also I was around a lot of older kids and was probably on the younger end of just that core group. So I think I just had to be scrappy and feisty and,
I love that.
and probably hold my own a little bit.
Yeah. So you played T-ball and then got interested in softball, I'm assuming. And then did you then try on soccer? So you did dual
I think
sports.
I did all
two
the
different
things.
seasons.
You did it. Yeah. Okay, that's true. That's right.
Yeah,
Two
so
different
soccer,
seasons.
softball, basketball were my 3 from a pretty young kiddo all the way through high school.
So between softball and soccer, which did you feel more like? Was there one more that you're pulled to than the other?
I think soccer, that's where I started to travel a bit more.
Okay,
and,
gotcha.
and be exposed to a higher level play. If you were to ask my softball coaches, they would have said they would have loved to see me stick with softball, which I did through college, but more focus on that. There was this always ever present pull from my different coaches. And my dad was my coach.
Focus all your time on this.
Exactly. My dad was also my coach in some of these sports.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pull because I was showing a lot of athletic ability, and especially kids these days that are have to be focused so young on a specific sport. I feel lucky that I was able to hold my own and express my interest in multiple sports. But soccer kind of became a little bit more focused effort.
Are you mentally very disciplined type person?
I am.
Yeah, because that would have to carry throughout high school and then going into college, which you played in college.
I did. I played soccer and softball. So that was a whole big thing. I did all the things to get recruited by big schools, which I was blessed to do and get different offers. But at the end of the day, really tough decision, but I chose to go Division III so I could play soccer and softball. And I guess the guiding force was I just wanted to play all 4 years on a competitive team and not sit the bench. I could have went and played it for D1, either soccer or softball. Probably got some decent playing time, but you got to take your licks and sit the bench as a freshman.
Sitting on the bench.
And I think I just had the ability to lift my head up. And at that time, though, the women's soccer league that is now was not a thing. Yeah. Women's sports have evolved. So women's professional softball has ebbed and flowed, and it hasn't been the Olympics for a few years, and they're trying to make a kind of a comeback with women's softball. So just women's sports, I lifted up my head. I've always been, like you said, a focused and driven individual. And I said, if I go D1 and I'm still rise to the top and I'm a great athlete, where potentially could that get me in life? And I just knew the other aspects of sport were really important to me. I did want to be on a competitive team. Losing stinks. So I wanted to be on a team that had the same drive and determination and commitment to excel at their sport. But I also had that other focus of education and in the other aspects of going to college. And so that really drove me I stayed in New York. I went to a Division III school and had a wonderful career.
Sounds like it.
Our teams were super competitive. We made the NCAA tournament 7 out of 8 opportunities in both sports. And it was, in hindsight, I always wonder what would have happened if, but I'm made a lot of amazing relationships.
That's wonderful.
And had a great career.
And you picked a very interesting major.
What was the major?
Psychology.
Yes.
I think I'd never heard about that. And I was like, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I did just regular psychology in my undergrad, thinking that sports psychology might be my pathway post undergrad, which I didn't end up pursuing, but that was definitely something that I was thinking about.
Is that like going into the mind of an athlete? What kind of is that? Is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Is using definitely all different psychology tools and counseling tools and just all the different practices, from breath work to mindfulness to envisioning yourself being successful, and just the battles that athletes face up and down in their careers. So really working through that mental side of sport.
There is so much. I don't remember sports psychology when I was going to college. Yeah. That must have been fairly new. But now look at the industry with it. There's wearables. There, like you said, there's breath work and how they're teaching people how to connect mind, body. Pretty interesting that you chose to go in that direction. But did you think coming out of college you were going to do something with that? Or did you still want to pursue more of athletic performance? Is that what you're...
I think like a lot of maybe higher tier athletes, you go through that transition post college of what's next. You're dictated by 4 years. And although your body, mind, spirit, your athletic performance might still be at its peak, again, for women, especially in team sports at that time, there wasn't a ton of opportunities. I potentially could have gone overseas to play sports, but it just also the weight of education and the cost of education and coming out with student loans and things like that. You're trying to adult at that point. And my parents were very generous with their capacity to help me get through college, but not without debt. And so you start to weigh the sacrifice of your family, and is it now time for me to step up and get a job? And you start to weigh all those things. And again, I think I was really blessed with opportunity, but definitely started to hone in on what is my next kind of step in career.
Yeah. And you had some really interesting internships.
I did.
Can you tell us about the first one?
Yeah. So my decision after undergrad was to look at getting in the workforce, but also looking into grad school to really hone, what I wanted to maybe do with my career. Yeah. And back when the internet was in its infancy, you still could start to Google things and not have to look things up in other ways. I stumbled upon, and I think through conversation learned about grad assistant positions. Knew I wanted to stay involved in the sport industry, just didn't know exactly what I wanted to do yet. And so learned about grad assistant positions, which essentially means that you can go get your grad degree and kind of intern, get a job in maybe the department that you're wanting to work in. So
you get paid?
You get paid.
Oh, that's amazing.
You get paid. And the way mine worked out was I got my education paid for.
Wow.
Didn't get a paycheck, but got my education. So I ended up going to Canisius College for my master's, which is back in Buffalo, New York. They had a graduate assistant position open within the athletics department, which was really appealing. More on kind of the sport business side of things, working with sponsorships, kind of external affairs from the college. So working with local businesses on promoting their business in conjunction with the athletics department. And I was able to, and also they offered a degree in sport administration, which is essentially a degree like an MBA with a sport emphasis. So I was able to marry up those two things. It was a new program. I think that program was only in its second year.
Wow.
Now there's all kinds of different, I hear of sport degrees and things, but that was really, again, unheard when you think about what do I do in grad school. That was never something back at that time of an option. So I really stumbled into it, which just feel that was a great fit for me. So I did I did my master's at Canisius while working in the athletic department. And after my first year of that, it was a 2-year program. You needed an internship as part of your grad degree. Okay. And so I'm meeting with the head of that master's program and trying to brainstorm. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm working in this athletic department. I feel like I'm getting real world experience for intercollegiate athletics, working behind the scenes. And so we just started to brainstorm. And I think as any high level athlete, you dream of the Olympics and being an Olympic athlete. And for all but the 1%, you don't achieve that dream. And so I just thought, wouldn't it be cool if maybe the Olympics had an internship program or an opportunity to go out there and shadow and get exposed to that culture and that organization, not as an athlete, but as a worker now and as an employee.
I mean, you're still around it and be like, wait, I get to see the athletes,
get to support
all these elite people. And
and I think, and support them in achieving their dreams, which would be really cool. So I looked it up and lo and behold, the Olympic committee had at that time, I don't know if they still do, a super robust internship program.
Wow.
Perfect.
So
That's cool. Okay. I want to back up though.
Yeah.
At the college, so you interned in this graduate program in sports administration. You learned the role of getting sponsors. Was that kind of you said it was a new thing. Were they learning from you as you're?
I think that sponsorship piece, like that department had existed for a long time. I think that's deeply rooted in intercollegiate D1 sports is that business relationship between the college and the surrounding businesses and everything to help fund the athletics department. But it was definitely a new realm for me. And it was a neat way to see how at upper levels of intercollegiate athletics that all, blended together, like the TV timeouts, when you're in the stands, you don't realize that during this break, this promotion's happening or there's a commercial on TV happening on TV. So that's why there's an extra timeout in a basketball game that no one called, and so just learning the back end of how it works when you have, sponsors that pay a considerable amount of money to help support your program. And so we helped facilitate those relationships. One of my roles was I managed the D1 hockey kind of sponsorship activation. So we would be bouncing on ice and doing a promotion on ice.
That's
and then
cool.
In the stands and different things.
So you got to be creative for the marketing piece.
A little bit of creativity. We could work with the sponsors on what they wanted and
that'd be fun.
Help bring it to life.
Yeah. Nice. I guess I've always wondered, like, how do these big, like NBA, NFL, I get it's big money, but what are all the little layers behind it? Yeah. So you got to experience some of those pieces and learn about that.
Yeah, on a really small scale, which was really neat.
But that's very cool.
Maybe planted a seed, kind of the business side of sport. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it probably helped you later in what you're doing now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you became an intern for the Olympics.
I did. And
talk to us about that.
Yeah. Didn't realize how competitive of an internship program it was. And little Julie from Western New York just shooting her shot and going for it. And so had to do multiple phone interviews and turn in an application. It was quite a process because as part of that internship, you would go out to whatever training center. There's 3, and this has evolved since, but there was 3 main training centers, one up in Lake Placid, New York, one in Colorado Springs, and one in Chula Vista, California. And you'd get placed at one of those, and then you'd get to go live there, and they provided housing and meals. So you actually, as an intern, became part of the family right away.
So did you go to the closer one? Hey, everyone. I want to take a moment to tell you about an incredible place making a real difference. Two Bear Therapeutic Writing Center. This is an organization committed to creating a truly enriching environment where people from all walks of life can discover, learn, and grow. Their programs go beyond just activities. They truly offer meaningful experiences that enhance emotional well-being, promote independence, and build valuable skills. Whether it's through pediatric physical therapy, adaptive horsemanship, which I love, engaging summer camps, or the full ranch experience, which is breathtakingly amazing, Two Bear has something to help everyone thrive. Their slogan, Therapeutic for All, captures who they truly are. At Two Bear, every participant, volunteer, staff member, and supporter is considered an integral part of their community. So, whether you're looking to get involved, need support, or just want to learn more, come see how Two Bear Therapeutic Writing Center is changing lives. To learn more, visit www.twobeartrc.org. Join them in creating a space where healing and growth happen every day.
To New York?
I did not. I went to the Colorado Springs Training
So
Center.
you didn't get to pick?
No.
They just place you.
I think during your application process, there was different parts that you could like check boxes and say, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this. And I think one of the boxes I checked was operations and logistics of actually running the training center itself. So you have the Olympic and Paralympic committee, which is the big kind of organizing body, the business kind of side of it. And then you have the training centers, which are a part of that business model. And Colorado Springs is the headquarters of the Olympic and Paralympic movement. So they have the business side of things there in the community, but then they also have the training center there as well.
So you got to meet athletes.
I did.
That would be really cool.
I got to live with, so they put the interns, so made it out to, filled my vehicle, drove out to Colorado for a summer. It was a 2.5-3 month internship during summer break from grad school.
That's a beautiful place to be in the summer, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had never experienced the Rockies before. Playing sports, I had gone up and down the East Coast, more regional out to the Midwest a little bit, but never in my sport career had made it west. Had made it overseas, but hadn't made it west, believe it or not.
Right.
And driving out there, obviously, my nature-loving self was just in awe of the natural beauty that the Rockies and
even
Colorado.
the drive.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful drive to see America.
Absolutely. And made it out there and I moved into the dorms, and there were like old barrack style housing. The resident athletes that lived and trained there year round got really nice housing, and then the short-term athletes that would come in for short-term camps or events would get more barrack style dorm housing.
Whoa. Okay.
And the very last building was where the interns would go, is also where they put the international athletes that would come in on trades or for just training opportunities to come and utilize our services and also become training partners for our athletes. Nice. And so that was a really neat experience, that our floor was half interns, half whatever revolving international athletes were coming to the training center.
I bet you it was fun on the weekends. Was it fun on the weekends?
We had a lot of fun, but they're
athletes. So
there's
a regimen to it.
Definitely became friends with athletes and would share meals, but definitely there was a line and a level of professionalism that as interns we definitely didn't want to blow that opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. So with internships, they have a start and a finish. Did you have to prove yourself in the internship every single time to be able to be evaluated for the next?
A lot of interns, their goal is to turn it into a job. I'm someone who, when they commit to something, they commit to something. So I had committed to my second year of grad school and my second year of my grad assistant position back in New York. But as I got more involved with the Olympic and Paralympic movement through my role, I was working on coordinating all the camps and events, short-term camps and events that would come through the training center behind a check-in desk. So really the operations, working with different departments, transportation, venues, things like that, the meals. So really coordinating all the details of camps and events. And as I got more involved, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And I really started to have that crisis, that internal crisis of I've made a commitment, but I feel like this is the path to my future. I just bucked up and had some honest conversations with my grad assistant supervisor. He was the head of the external affairs department for the college, and just said, I think I can, through relationships, I think I can turn this into something. I might is it okay if I don't come back? There was 3 grad assistants, and I'm like, you have the opportunity to hire a new one. And then,
did you finish your graduate program?
Yeah. So then I talked to the head of like the dean of the sport administration program and kind of said the same thing. And he was wonderful and said, part of the point of getting a grad degree is to get a job where you want to work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So he said, if you can do that, then we can work remotely to finish your degree should you want to, or see if we can transfer it to a more local program. Balls got rolling, and of course talked to my parents, and they're like, we knew it. We knew you'd never come back once you went out west. They're obviously very supportive of me spreading my wings, but obviously very sad at the same time.
Yes.
So yeah, long story short, I was able to stay on and extend my internship while hoping a job would open up within either my department or something similar with the Olympic movement right there in Colorado. And lo and behold, it did. And so actually an entry-level job opened up within the same department.
That's amazing.
So, yep.
That's
timing is good.
And
but you also knew what you wanted, and you were just like, no, this is, and then you made things happen for you.
Yeah, took a chance and the power of relationships, and that's
true. The power of the relationship, even to talk to your dean and stuff. If I was in that age, I would have been like, I'm gonna talk to people. No, I'm committed. I guess I just have to go through it and not have tried to.
That also speaks to what you just said, Kate. Is she's determined, she's focused, and then people see that. They're like, wow, this girl really has potential, and we want to let her spread her wings and fly. And it's great to have these mentors and people that you respect.
Great support system.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so then you took this job, and then what was that like? Were you like, now I'm officially in, this is happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty surreal. It all happened over the course of probably 5 months, going from moving out there as an intern to getting a job and becoming truthfully part of it. But over that time, I did build such great relationships. It becomes a family. There's a couple hundred people that work and run the training center, and it does just become a family if you put yourself out there. And
that's a good sized staff.
Yeah. And it really was an easy transition in that sense of really just starting to own it and grow in my role and lean on other people. But it was a very collaborative kind of team-like environment. I built a lot of great friendships along the way. We were all there. Groups of us were all in our 20s or early 30s, all had similar passions outside of work, right? We're all working there probably because we're quite similar in our passions. And so that just really, for me, became my second family. And we skied and snowboarded on the weekends, and we mountain biked and we hiked. And just
like
got
the ideal
infused.
Took advantage of everything that was there.
Exactly. Absolutely. Found my people and my tribe, and was able to really just grow roots there.
Yeah. So what was some of the exciting parts of your job? You obviously were working with Olympic athletes. Were you also working with Paralympic athletes as well?
Yeah. So
did you, not that you have a preference, but talk to us a little bit about working with both types of populations.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
The Olympics happens every 4 years, obviously winter and summer on an alternating schedule. What people probably still don't realize is the Paralympic Games are for people with physical disabilities, and they happen right after each of the Olympic or Paralympic Games. So there's like a 2-week break, and then the Paralympics starts, and they use the same venues and same everything as the Olympic Games. And from the U.S. Olympic Committee and Paralympic Committee standpoint, the training sites and the training centers are also for Paralympic hopefuls. And so our training center in Colorado Springs, it also had like sports psychology, it had sports sciences, it had all the really geeky testing, really to elevate performance.
Yeah.
We were constantly and the coaches and the sports performance team, the high performance team, were constantly looking for competitive advantages with nutrition and with different training tools and things like that. All different camera systems and things. So it was a really high tech place. But the Paralympic athletes would also come in and have access to those resources as well once they reached a different level. So it was a really neat. Growing up, my dad being a special education teacher, he primarily worked with kids and young adults with cognitive and intellectual diagnoses and disabilities, which also meant that many of them had physical disabilities as well, but their primary diagnosis had something to do with a cognitive or intellectual disability. He was at a school that was built for kids and young adults with cognitive and intellectual disabilities. So that was more
was very focused. Wow, that's
so kids could be included in public school classrooms, but this was also a center in which kids could be supported more thoroughly.
So, but Olympic athletes probably have different instrumentation. So did they then bring in different pieces of equipment for the Paralympic?
Yeah, great
athletes?
question.
Yeah.
People. So then the Paralympic side is just for people with physical disabilities. So being at the training center, I got exposed more to learning about people with physical disabilities. And that was just from an athlete's perspective, just learning how their bodies move differently. Maybe they had a spinal cord injury or an amputation, or they were visually impaired or blind. So really just starting to ask questions and get to know no two disabilities are alike. No two people who use wheelchairs are alike. And so just really being curious and learning about how people with disabilities overcome different challenges and obstacles to be competitive in their sports. I thought for me, the Olympic athletes, you see them roll out of bed, go down to the dining hall, eat some food, and then go train their tail off 3 times a day. And as I got to know and build relationships with the Paralympic athletes and the Paralympic hopefuls, just understanding that their daily routines had a lot more things that they had to think about and plan, and ways that they had to take care of their physical body, and just still more barriers in society, even at the training center.
I was going to ask, was the whole place handicapped accessible? Or
it was fairly accessible, but I'd say probably it was an old kind of barrack style place. So still some barriers and things. So just really starting to see that the Paralympic hopefuls and the Paralympic athletes were the true badasses.
Yeah.
And my heart just pulled in that direction over time.
I want to talk to you a little bit about mindset, because I think that's important. You just explained the day in the life of an Olympic athlete, right? But there's, and then you show talk about the differences between that and a Paralympic athlete. Let's talk about just the physical things that they have to do, right? But then the challenges that they face mindset wise. What did you see when you're an athlete? You know what to get into that mindset, where there are distinctive differences between the Paralympic athlete versus the Olympic athlete?
Not being an Olympic athlete or a Paralympic athlete, it is hard to say. I think they both were driven and determined, and did one group have more obstacles to overcome? Absolutely. But I think from a mindset, just being an elite athlete, there's just that elite athlete mindset. And it's probably not a huge difference between the two, other than people with physical disabilities are either born that way or they acquire a disability. And I think some of the challenges that I've seen over the years is, if you were born without a disability and acquire a disability at some point through your life, then that definitely is quite a different mental process than if you were born, had a congenital disability from when you were born and you've lived with it your whole life. But again, just speaking from chatting with people and not from my own lived.
But you also dealt with injured vets or injured Army or Navy forces. And then they obviously went in able-bodied and then came out disabled. Was that you worked with them, right? And what was that type of experience as well?
Yes, so I worked for about 3 years supporting the Olympic Training Center and the operations and logistics of the camps and events that would come through more on a short-term basis. And then through my relationships, really wanted to shift over to supporting the Paralympic movement. And so was able to apply and get a job working for U.S. Paralympics in their military programs. And so that was still in the time when there was a lot of combat-related injuries. And so the Paralympics started a Paralympic military program.
And that's where I was. Was that new?
It was newish. As
gotcha.
As they're recruiting for Olympic.
So great. Yeah, great question. Of course, in the spirit of sport and bringing people together and using the power of sport to help people overcome obstacles and challenges. And just as a recovery tool for our injured, wounded military veterans, and kind of that sense of community and camaraderie again. Of course, that was a huge part of the spirit of the Paralympic military program, but it was definitely a great recruiting tool for our Paralympic programs and our pipelines. So we would go to different military installations and run a 5-day. We'd run them through all the different Paralympic sports. And again, cycling, seated volleyball, wheelchair basketball, swimming, some really neat things, and rebuild that sense of
for them to
camaraderie,
try something new.
Try something new and figure out their body and how they could move it differently, or the different adaptive tools and equipment. We would bring in all of that stuff and just show them, first and foremost, life's not over. You are so much much more capable than probably you think you are now. Being in the military, that's a lot of athletic people, a lot of physical. Their jobs mandated that they were very physical for a lot of them being on the front lines. It was a lot of combat injured folk. Yeah, to have that life-changing accident, but we were there to show them there are tools to elevate what you can do, and there's equipment to backfill maybe what you've lost. And that was a really neat experience. And but definitely recruiting for us. So there was a whole back end side of seeing who might be worthwhile to invest some resources into.
Opportunity, I should say, maybe instead of recruiting, giving them an opportunity.
Absolutely. To still maintain that physicality and an elite athlete and just divert attention and focus in a different way.
I want to ask you, that had to have been an empowering moment going to some of these places where there are injured servicemen and women, and I can envision that they light up. They're like, what? Did you see, was there ever a story or a time or a moment where you witnessed somebody just, gosh, my life's over, to, wow, this is an opportunity of a lifetime for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
And shift their entire perspective and mindset to what you guys had offered them.
Absolutely. I think it was a very humbling experience for me, knowing what sport had done in my life. It especially competitive sport and being on teams, for me, it really helps shape who you are and your values. And it we say, and even at Dream now, and I know we'll get into that, but it's so much bigger than the sport that we provide. And I think that was instilled in me from my whole athletic career is, we want to be competitive athletes. We want to be the very best at our sport, but it's so much, what you gain is so much more than just that sport skill experience. And just very humbling experience for me. Felt very blessed to be in the position to help. And I think that's, if we were tying it back to my childhood and my parents as teachers, I think I found, although we were bringing in high-level coaches to teach each one of these things, my sports background helped in the coordination of it all, and jumping in and helping and facilitating and having the side conversations and being an encourager and really talking about the possibilities of helping people know, this isn't, where are you from? Okay, this is in your hometown. These are the small community-based organizations, or these are the options for you, and just being a source of encouragement. So your
whole story seems like it just was pointing in this direction.
Yeah, it's pretty neat how it all has unfolded and the dots have been connected.
But I want to ask you, we'll edit that. I want to ask you the experience during I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay. The experience of working with these injured servicemen and women. Did you guys create called the Warrior Games? Is that what you created?
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So while at the Olympic Training Center, I think even before I possibly moved over to the Paralympics, there was a lot of buzz around creating a Olympic style competition amongst the service branches, the injured, ill, wounded service branches. Again, as people were coming back injured from war, the different branches were creating their wounded warrior battalions, in essence. So the military was creating these places on bases that we were going to visit. And a whole crew of people dreamed up this competition where all the branches would train and pick their teams and then come in, and the Olympic Training Center would host these different events and pit them against each other.
That's
in the spirit of competition.
That's amazing, because a little competition gets everybody a little more involved in it.
And gets them more involved and just more committed in the sense of camaraderie and just the rivalries. And I was part of the team internally from the training center, and then from the Paralympic side of things that over a number of years carried out that annual event, and it definitely grew. I was part of the very first one and did a handful of them afterwards, and it definitely had grown each year, and we improved it. And
and tell us a little bit about Prince Harry.
Yes. So a really fun, I can't remember what year, it might have been second or third year of the Warrior Games. Prince Harry had gotten word, a military veteran, or I think he was still serving in the military as part of mandatory service. And he had learned about what we were doing and had wanted to maybe bring a similar competition to the UK. We just didn't really know. Apparently he had asked to come over and see the Warrior Games and support it. And one of my best friends from working there, was able to give him a tour around all the venues. And then he stayed and watched some of the competition, which was really great for everyone involved to have someone of his caliber attention to it. And
did you meet him?
I did meet him. I don't know if I have proof, but I did.
What was that like? What was that experience like?
I'm sure it was just a quick hello.
Oh, darn it. Like, yes.
No long lunch dates.
Darn it.
But yeah, it was really awesome that he was able to shine a light on what we were doing. And that actually spurred him on to create what's called the Invictus Games, which is now like a global competition amongst countries. And so he took what we did. He took what we did against pitting the service branches against each other. And now it is country based. And so the U.S.
Wow. That's very cool.
And so he moves it around. It was in Canada and it was in Florida. I think it was in the U.S. And I haven't followed it too well, but I think the Warrior Games were that catalyst and that light bulb for him.
And you were involved in that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. That's a really cool story to tell people.
I was a small cog in wheel in the bigger picture, but yeah, it was neat to say that I was part of the first Warrior Games in my small little role.
I love that. I'd be telling everybody. Okay, let's transition into you coming to Montana and getting involved in the Dream Adaptive Recreation team. Yeah. So let's walk through that. So how did you come to Montana?
By way of San Diego. So through my time with the Paralympic military program, I met my husband who was in the military at the time and also working with the Wounded Warrior, the Marine team in essence that would bring the injured, ill and wounded Marine team out to the training center. So through work, we were able to be introduced and met, and
that's very
we dated long distance. And in the evolution of my Olympic and Paralympic career, there's quads. So every 4 years, there's a cycle that happens with the staffing of the training center, the Paralympics, everything. So there was a restructure happening, as it always does after I went to the London Olympics in 2012. Wow. And through that experience, and after that, restructuring was happening, and I was blessed to still be selected to work for the Olympic Committee post that, but just felt like that was a good time to shift focus. And so I moved out to San Diego to be with my now husband and dabbled in some for-profit world, volunteered with adaptive recreation while I was there, but found myself in for-profit for a couple years. And as he transitioned out of the military and started to work for a nonprofit himself, we had the flexibility to live anywhere that we wanted. I was ready to pull the plug on San Diego. And it was a great time, but not necessarily where I wanted to spend my whole time. And we renovated an RV. We did the van life thing, and we traveled around the country for about 8 months to different places that he was running events for the nonprofit that he was working for.
So, okay, you rented this RV and
we renovated one.
You renovated one, and you traveled and stayed in these various spots, and then he was working, and then were you just like, I'm going to go play?
I was supporting him. It was an adaptive recreation, so I was able to do some support. I was getting into photography, so I'd go to his events and document what they were doing, and doing some personal growth for that 8 months of learning about just back end of marketing stuff and website design, and really just trying to use that time to educate myself on different aspects of business that I didn't know about. I don't sit idle, but yes, I had a lot of fun.
You don't sit idle. I love that you just said that. But you're always learning and growing and taking on new experiences that always seem to lead you in this path. Mm-hmm. Have you ever like tapped into that and wow, all these little arrows keep going in this direction?
Yeah, I think I've just been driven, and
I love that.
Not known. Haven't been someone who said in 5 years when you're interviewed, where do you want to be in 5 years? Had no idea, other than I wanted to keep growing and learning and I guess helping.
I love that.
And evolving myself and evolving what I was involved with.
That's wonderful. So then you're traveling, and do you just stumble upon Whitefish, Montana?
So we narrowed it down. Our first winter in the RV was about 8 months into our road trip, and we narrowed it down to the fact that we wanted a winter. We had lived in San Diego for a while, so we both wanted a winter. So then working in the nonprofit, or me being somewhat unemployed at the time, budget became a thing. So we're like, okay, which winter zones with a ski hill can we afford? Lift ticket or season pass? Yeah. Where are we going to park the RV? Who has RV parks that are open year round through the winter? So that narrowed it down quite a bit.
Yes.
So we narrowed it down to 3 places, one being Whitefish. And really, we knew that there were adaptive programs at each of those 3 locations as well that we might be able to volunteer for. And really, we just said, let's send it north. Let's go to the northmost
Yes.
place. And
the crown of the continent.
Yeah. Yes. Neither of us had been to Whitefish before, so we rolled in early December of 16, right before a -20 snap, and tucked in behind the Army Navy store at the RV park there. I think it was behind the Cheap Sleep Motel. That was then Cheap Sleep
cold.
Motel. And froze our tushes off until we figured out all the systems of living winter camping.
Wow. That's a big move.
Yeah,
that's
it
exciting.
was an adventure.
Yes. So then you rolled into town. I didn't realize I thought Dream Adaptive Recreation came, you were the founder of that, but no, it's existed before.
Correct.
For how long? How long is it?
Since 1985.
Wow.
So we're coming up to our 40th birthday.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's been around for a long time.
Okay.
Started by a woman named Dottie Maitland, who was running a tour guide company at the time, and she was contacted by a woman and her family. The woman had a disability, so the story goes, and that woman, because it was the mid-'80s, was turned down by all the different tour guide companies, or many of them, because she had a physical disability and no one knew how to support her.
Wow.
And so Dottie, hearing this woman's plight and her frustration and probably their sadness, welcomed the woman and her family to a tour and an experience with Dottie's tour guide company at the time. And through that lens and through that experience, Dottie and her team realized how inaccessible the world was, specifically in the Flathead, relating to tourism and outdoor recreation and all this beautiful place that surrounds us, that people with physical disabilities using mobility devices really couldn't get out and experience it. So she banded together with a group of folks, and they first started with just making like parks and recreation spaces a little more accessible, installing a bridge here or a paved path or a nicely crushed gravel path. And they worked with Glacier National Park on the Trail of the Cedars was one of their early projects. And they also built an accessibility guide to the Flathead. And so it was like this paperback book that they shipped off to different tour guide companies across the U.S. through their network that said, if you come to the Flathead, this is what's accessible to you.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Isn't that really neat?
Yeah, that's
so that
really
all
neat.
transpired between 85 and about 90.
And especially the Trail of Cedars. I'm coming to Glacier National Park and then you can't see anything. And so it's a paved path that's wheelchair accessible. And
I'm so grateful that you shared that story. I don't think a lot of people know that, though.
But if you say the name Dottie Maitland or Jane Lopp, the Lopp family, and some of the early folks who started it, some of those deeply rooted folks who've lived here for a while, will start to connect the dots.
That's a really great piece of history to know about, because I've been on that numerous times. I don't think I ever saw any sort of information. Maybe there is like a really big board or something that details that, but that's a great piece of information to give to people that are listening. Very cool.
Yeah, Dream in the 80s was definitely focused on inclusion in spaces and access. And then there was a group up at the resort. Dennis Jones was the catalyst. He's an amputee, had a career in the Forest Service, learned about adaptive skiing. And so there was another group up at the resort starting adaptive skiing. And I guess those two groups came together to form what was called Disabled Recreation Environmental Access Movement.
Dream. Wow.
That's a great analogy, though.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So then did you take a position when you moved here? Like, what was your role?
Yeah, so for over the decades, Dream was an all-volunteer run organization for a long time. They might have had little part-time staff here and there, but it really wasn't until I think around 2010-ish where a paid staff member, a position was formalized, an executive director position, as the need in the community grew. So Dream was running access projects, but mostly just running a ski program back then.
Yeah.
And between 2010 and when I joined, they grew their staff, I think, by at 1.2. So they were a total staff of 3 people, not all in full-time positions, but to really elevate the ski program was their primary focus.
Okay.
And they started to sprinkle in some other recreational activities like paddleboarding, I think was in a water sports program, I think started around 2010, motorized water sports.
Oh,
and
cool.
they were starting to dabble away, keeping their winter program, which was the Cornerstone program, and then diving into opening up opportunities in the summertime too. So when I moved here, one of serendipitously for the winter, we were just moving here for the winter in our RV to ski and then go back out on the road to travel more. Serendipitously, when I was looking for jobs in coffee shops or at the mountain at the resort, I found that Dream was hiring. And yeah, with a little encouragement, decided to throw my name in the hat for, it was a year-round program coordinator position.
Okay.
So coordinating all the details of the programs that they were running at that time.
Wow. And I'm sure they looked at your resume and they're like, oh, top of the pile, look at that one.
Yeah. I was hired we moved here December of 16 and was hired near the end of January of 2017. So like a month and a half after we got here, I was employed by Dream.
Okay, so what was the first event that you had to help with?
It was during the winter, so I think like a military veterans weekend, ironically. So I think I rolled in not having a background in adaptive skiing or riding because I was doing more of the traditional Paralympic sports. So just wide-eyed and like a sponge. I had skied and snowboarded off and on throughout my life, and definitely when I was living in Colorado. So I had a background, but had never managed the logistics or the operations of a ski program
But you're just new to the area too, learning about all the different mountains and
absolutely
trail systems and everything else. What were some of the challenges that you experienced starting off?
I think Dream has such a robust volunteer pool that literally just learning names of people.
That's true.
And we still to this day, we brought on a new staff just yesterday, and we said, your goal for the first 2 months is to get to know everyone, which is hundreds of people, which is really important piece of what we do.
Which is amazing with Dream of the amount of volunteers.
It's
huge.
Volunteers are definitely still the backbone of the organization. But so I'd say my first challenge was really just to get to know everyone and all the players, from volunteers and participants, and really just get a feel for what Dream was all about.
I love that. So you've been with them in this role 7 years.
So I became the ED. There was, shortly after I was hired, there was actually a couple major leadership changes.
Okay.
The board was evolved. The executive director chose to move on to other pursuits. And so Dream actually went through 2 EDs within a year. And it's a lot. And it happens in nonprofits to find the right fit, especially small nonprofits, as they're trying to build their professional culture and professional identity. And definitely a lot of great people that poured their heart and soul and talents into Dream to get it to where it was. But it had a little hiccup after the person who hired me departed for other pursuits, and then the after just didn't find a great fit. The door had been opened for me. I had been with Dream for a whole year, had seen all the programs, had seen the potential, really did get to know and build great relationships, and felt like I was at a point in my career where I could step in and commit to a number of years to where Dream was in its evolution, needed someone to just commit for a long term and to really just take all the amazing work that had been done before and just bring in new ideas and really raise the bar and commit to the organization to seeing it into its next phase of its lifespan.
Yeah.
What were some of the as you come in, you're new to the organization, but you bring in a little bit of like new perspective. What was the first new idea or something that you wanted to propose to Dream to roll out?
I think Dream was full of a lot of amazing individuals. And I think finding creative ways to empower our 100+ volunteers who come from all different walks of life and have so much to give. And many of them had been with Dream for decades, and just coming in, I think, with a fresh set of eyes on how to enhance the culture and the empowerment of our volunteers. And that definitely building a different culture with an organization takes time. So being really mindful about the changes that I would roll out, just really slow and methodical, and just wanted to, again, lean on the relationships that I built and continue to build relationships. So when I did make a change, everyone was heading in the same direction. But I think just figuring out what it looked like to just provide more opportunities for our volunteer instructors on the programmatic side and giving them more of a say in the evolution of Dream. So I think that was one big thing from the get-go of just really listening, learning about Dream's history, honoring Dream's history, honoring the people that had come before me, and just listening and then molding that into a new culture and elevating the environment. And that looked like spending some funds on training and elevating the folks that came in to train our volunteers. You'll find that people rise to the challenge if they are challenged, if they're appreciated and then challenged and said, I see your potential, I see your passion, we're here, let's see if we can enhance our services and the quality. So I think elevating kind of the culture side of Dream and empowering our volunteers.
Yeah.
And the other big thing that I saw at Dream was known in the community. It had been here for so long, and really just putting an emphasis on donor development and supporting the existing donors and really putting a focus on those relationships as well, and financially supporting Dream in a way that we could then funnel it, of course, all over to our programs and elevating what we could do with our programs by having more funding.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about when you said the training with your volunteers? So is that when you implemented, or were they already certified, or did you introduce that program? Just people who don't know can okay, these instructors and these volunteers have these qualifications.
Yeah, wow. So I mean, there is Professional Ski Instructors of America, same on the snowboard side. So that is an opportunity. And so we did start to draw Dream into the conversation with professional certifications and things, but also just bringing in, there's a wealth of knowledge around the country of adaptive trainers, people who've been in the industry for a long time. So we definitely elevated the certification pathway as one option for folks to learn the fundamentals of teaching skiing and apply it to adaptive techniques, but also just really leaning on, and for me, it was just a ton of networking within the adaptive snow sports industry of finding out who were the leaders and what services were out there that we could lean on. But again, that all took funding. So there was two arms of when I came in, a funding side of things in relationship with those committed donors and supporters and trying to build new relationships with folks that would align with our mission from a funding standpoint, and then really figuring out piece by piece of what elevating our services, the quality and safety of our services on the program side.
That's fascinating. Like. And you made a good point. So I want to understand this. So if you want to be a volunteer of Dream, you can go through a certification process?
There is an option.
There's an option
for skiing. So we're just talking skiing at this point. Obviously, we run year-round programs in all different sports. There is an option at a certain point within your volunteerism with Dream that door gets open to you through our program and through our funding. Any person could go through this pathway to get certified on their own, but we offer enhanced opportunities for different certifications.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Should that align with maybe the individual volunteers' goals and our goals as an organization with their skill sets?
That feels like you're then empowering them to potentially go and help elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is wonderful. I love that. I want to go back to your experience as being an athlete on a team and how you brought that skill set into Dream to essentially empower people.
Absolutely.
I think it's wonderful.
It's a team effort at any nonprofit, at any entity, and someone definitely has to steer the ship, but getting buy-in from everyone as to what the vision is. And really, when we stamped the name Dream on something, I think I was able to just come in and really lift everyone's eyes up to what the potential could be. Dream was doing amazing things, and the people that came before me had really elevated it over the decades. But I think, like you said, a fresh set of eyes and just maybe some new energy and new perspective. I think it was important for me to empower those who had amazingly dedicated themselves to the organization to say, let's hit a pause button here and really envision what Dream could be and the impact, the community impact. I think the potential, when I came in, the potential was just so obvious. And then it has taken a while to just take those stepping stones to really elevate us to where today we're known across the country for our programs and services and the level of our quality. And I think sometimes it's scary to hit the pause button on something that had been around for decades. But one of the first things I did was just come in and hit a pause button. We still ran our services, but we weren't growing. We needed to elevate the culture, empowering our instructors, really developing more community relationships, either on the program side or on the funding side. And really,
that's a big one.
Yeah.
Community relationships for that. That's huge. Yeah.
This is such one of the things that drew us to this area was the sense of community and how everyone has each other's backs and just the hundreds of nonprofits that are here elevating and lifting people up. And so just really wanting to make sure that Dream was seen as one of the more professional organizations providing really quality and safe services. So,
and the quality and the growth with the programs, you want to talk about how it grew from skiing and now it's snowboarding, and talk about all almost all 4 seasons, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 1 in 4 people will have a disability in the United States and across the world. People with disabilities are prevalent. And I think the growth of Dream has just been in response to the demand in the community. There's an ever-present and an ever-growing demand for our services, especially as we've elevated Dream's name and our services. And we've spent a lot of time just thoughtfully growing our programs. And so now we do a Nordic ski program in the winter, in addition to downhill skiing and snowboarding. And then in the summertime, we do a robust mountain bike program, which we've just expanded to a paved path cycling program.
Oh, cool.
So we'll be biking on all the paved pathways and also the dirt trails around the Flathead Valley more and more. We run paddleboard and kayaking. In the summer, we do motorized water sports, which is water skiing, wakeboarding, wake surfing. And then we also got an accessible drift boat that we'll be partnering with different guide companies and assist people with mobility challenges through fishing on lakes and rivers. We're just looking for ways to thoughtfully grow and listening to the community as to where are the barriers to outdoor recreation. So that's one piece. And then with more resources, Dream has been able to go back to its roots a little bit more and focus on accessibility projects. And we run all of these in-house robust programs, but that's only one piece of the puzzle to creating a more accessible community. Our programs are full. Unfortunately, we have wait lists for our programs, so we can't be everything to everyone as far as helping people with disabilities get outside. So another critical piece is making the places and spaces that we all love to recreate more accessible and inclusive. And so we've put a lot of resources and time and energy into working with other community entities to make the trails more accessible, to make the river put-ins and takeouts more accessible, and making programs more accessible, recreation programs that other entities are running more accessible. And so we call it a 3-pronged approach to accessibility in the Flathead. Outdoor recreation, that sounds so formal, but it's not. So our programs, and then we have our access projects, and then we also help people who plug into our programs obtain their own adaptive recreation equipment, not through our funding, but through connecting them. We connect them to other, they try out all of our adaptive equipment. We find what works for them in whatever sport, and then we connect them to other funding sources and help them with grant applications and letters of recommendation, and help them source their own pieces of equipment so that they can have their own bike or ski in their own garage and don't necessarily need to lean on us, but they can if they want to still plug into our programs.
Can you give an example of what a mountain bike is so people know in comparison to a regular mountain bike?
Right. Again, so many barriers still in our society for people with disabilities, and adaptive equipment and obtaining adaptive equipment is still really tough for folks. So we have these 3-wheeled bikes. They're made up of bike components, mountain bike components, but they're oriented in a different way. And most of them are trikes. They have suspension. Some of them the wheels articulate so they can get in off-camber situations and just have a higher level of performance. But one of those costs about $20,000. So
$20,000?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they're not mass produced like a 2-wheeled bike would be.
Yeah.
And there's some customization to it and extra pieces and parts. And so a huge barrier for folks with disabilities. And again, Dream is able to fulfill that for a lot of folks in our community. But like I said, there's a lot of demand for our services.
Yeah. And because mountain biking in itself is scary, but I can't imagine you'd have to have something that's pretty elaborate to protect. So $20,000 per bike.
Yes. And we use the term mountain biking, but it can also be used as a mobility device to get out on a trail for a very mellow walk in the woods with your family or friends. And although a lot of them, those that are meant for dirt trails, there's a wide variety of burly they are and how advanced they are. So 20 is more of the high-end mountain bike that you could take on all different types of trails. And there's a scale. I'd say $12,000 is probably the low end if you wanted to get on dirt trails with a mobility device, whether we call it a mountain bike or a mobility device that just helps someone get out on the trails with their friends and family.
Wow. Okay, I want to ask you a personal question.
Sure.
What's been the most rewarding experience or moment with Dream?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There's been every day. It is a very rewarding role every single day. I think just seeing the community of people, whether it's participants or volunteers or donors, we have a very relatable mission. We all probably live here in the Flathead Valley because of the proximity and access to the great outdoors and all the benefits, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, that we all get from being surrounded and having that access to nature. And so we get such a diverse group of people that plug into our organization. A participant can volunteer with us. A volunteer can participate, if they have a disability, a donor could be one of our participants, could be a donor, right? Anyone can fill a role, one of our roles at Dream, but also just, the spirit of Dream and the culture that we've created is extremely rewarding. I'm so proud of our staff team that we've grown, and they're really driving the charge to support our 200 plus volunteers that dedicate their time to come in to support our mission. And
I love hearing that 200 volunteers.
Yeah, I know,
it's
amazing.
just like, wow, you can just put that picture in your head. That's so many people in the community committed to making this program.
If I had to guess, over 600 people are impacted directly by our organization, and probably more, whether it's our donor family that provides an impact through their gifts and their support, our 200 plus volunteers, our 350 plus participants with disabilities, and the countless family members and friends that also plug in alongside of them to our programs, our board of directors. Yeah. So the ripple effect of Dream is quite vast. So I would say, I'm very blessed to be part of that, and it's extremely rewarding. So I'd say the people are my most favorite.
Oh, I'm sure. Do you have a volunteer that's been there for the 30, 40 years?
We do. So we have, I'd say, at least 2, if not 3 volunteers that have been that are still with Dream that have been there since, if not the first year, maybe the second or third.
Can you say their names?
Yeah, Jerry Mayhew, who's still kicking around Dream as an instructor and is on our emeritus board. And Bob Zahler, he learned to ski through Dream. He came and just helped load sit skis back in the 80s, didn't know how to ski, and through meeting other volunteers, they taught him how to ski.
That's
and
amazing.
He'll be up this winter for
I love that.
his 30 plus years of service to our ski program. So we've got a couple in the 20-year club. Clay Colby is another one that's been with us for a long time.
I love that. That's amazing. I love when volunteers stick. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I have a question. Where do you see Dream Adaptive Recreation in the coming years?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. As I mentioned, 1 in 4 people have a disability in the United States and also in the world. And the disabled population is the only minority population that any one of us could join at any time.
Right.
So like any one of us could have a life-changing accident or injury or illness. And aging, we're all aging and our bodies are changing. And so unfortunately, I hope that scientists solve and can reverse spinal cord injuries. And I hope that cancer isn't a thing in the future. But unfortunately, I think Dream services in some way, shape, or form will be needed well into the future. Yeah. We hope that the world rises up and our community rises up and becomes more accessible and inclusive. And our role in the community might evolve and change. And over the years, as the world breaks down more barriers for people with disabilities. But the near future for Dream looks like thoughtful program growth, expanding our services to rise up to meet the incredible demand for our services. Yeah. We have an exciting opportunity right now where the resort has donated and the Foley family has donated a plot of land up at Whitefish Mountain Resort off of Chair 9.
Whoa.
And so we are in the process of a capital project. A family has stepped forward and provided a lead gift for us. And so we are actively fundraising lead gifts for a project up to $15 million that we anticipate it'll cost us to build a mountain center that will be our headquarters for our year-round programmings for the decades to come.
That is awesome.
And we've got a contractor and an architect firm that's been working with us diligently, and we hope to be in it in 2027.
Hey, today, donate. Where do they go to donate?
We're quietly fundraising right now for the lead phase of this project, and we'll definitely open it up to the broader community. No gift it will be turned away. Our focus right now, in addition to obtaining lead gifts to really get a big chunk of this project funded, is just growing our programs and sustaining our programs. So an annual gift to Dream through our website is where it's at right now. And if folks are interested in learning about our capital project, I'd be glad to chat with them. But really, we have an amazing growth plan over the next couple years. So when the center is built, we are ready with staff and with resources and equipment and recruiting and training more volunteers so that over the next decade, we can open these doors. Hopefully within the next 3 years, we're opening these doors, but really then thoughtfully expanding our services through having a barrier-free space and a very thoughtful space up at the resort.
Those listening, as you're listening to this remarkable story and you want to learn more, I'll put the information in the description of this episode. So all you need to do is click on the website. So
that would be awesome.
Yes, that would be awesome. I hate to say it, but we're down to our last 3 questions. Yes. I'm so sad. Go ahead, Kate, you're up.
Okay. What is one piece of advice or insight you've gained that you think everyone should hear?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm sure if I rattled back through my brain, there's been so many people that have lifted me up and that I've sought advice from. No one gets to where they're at alone. And so I have a lot of gratitude for mentors and people I've called for advice, especially on this dream journey that I've been on over the last 8 years. I'd say just lifting people up around you, finding a common vision and really just lifting people up together and rising together is just the way that I operate. And I think I credit a lot of success at Dream is to just us reminding each other of what our mission is and having a common vision and really just elevating each other.
Yes, I love that. Wow. Our second question is fun. If the Olympics had a real life skills event like speed grocery shopping or parallel parking under pressure, which event would you totally win gold in?
Oh, I think there's 2 maybe that I could think of. One is I can get my car down to below empty and not run out of gas and just glide into
That's a skill.
the gas station. So running that car down to just fumes.
I love that.
Thanks to my mom. I think she instilled that trait in me. And then the other one is I've gotten really good at backing up our cargo trailers at Dream. Your parallel park, maybe not parallel parking, but we've got some big equipment that we haul, especially in the summer. And it's definitely been trial by fire for all staff. I think it is part of every job description to be able to back up boats and cargo trailers. And it's
That's
amazing the behind the scenes things when you run a nonprofit that you're just thrown into. So I can do a darn good job of backing up a 20-foot trailer.
20-foot trailer?
Oh, yeah.
What? Mm-hmm. That's huge. It's so funny because I literally said...
In very tight spaces, I will add. I've seen her. She's great.
Wow.
The smaller ones are actually a little more touchy, but...
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I used to send my husband memes on backing up trailers because I'd have to back up trailers for boats and all sorts of crap that my husband would put me in. I would be so frustrated. I would be yelling out the window. And 20 foot is impressive.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, my goodness.
Sign me up for the Olympics. I didn't make it in soccer and softball. I might make the Olympics in one of those 2 things.
I love that. That's amazing. We should have a competition for that. I don't know. That'd be fun. Kate, you're up.
Okay, we come to our last question.
Okay.
If you could pass the mic to a Montana woman to share their story on the IWD406 podcast, who would it be and why?
Hi, I hope you're enjoying this episode. We have an exciting Montana-focused giveaway just for you. This incredible giveaway features lodging in some of Montana's most beautiful locations, dining experiences that showcase the best of Montana cuisine, unique products and services curated by inspiring Montana women-owned businesses, fun-filled Montana experiences you don't want to miss. It's easy to enter. Just visit www.IWD406.com to register for your chance to win. Good luck to all the participants. A special thank you to our amazing podcast giveaway sponsors for making this possible. Your support helps us spotlight the brilliance of Montana women and their businesses. So don't forget to share and tag your friends. This is one giveaway you won't want them to miss.
That's a great question. There's so many women that I've been blessed to meet over my time here in the Flathead Valley, and many who've motivated me to elevate my game and my skills. But someone that I'd love to personally even know more about that I've met in passing in the community is Lexi Woods with Wild River Adventures.
Oh,
she has a 20 plus year military career.
Wow.
She's a business owner. She's a mom. She's been able to juggle so much and be extremely successful, and I think our community should learn more about her.
And what's the name of her organization?
Wild River Adventures. It's a guiding and rafting company.
Really?
In West G.
Oh, I didn't. Nice. Wow.
That's West Glacier, y'all.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's 20 years.
Plus in the military, I think 22.
20 years in the military. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's really, so she runs a rafting guide. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Very cool. Women owned. Go women. Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed I've learned a lot. Like the history of, I just thought that was really cool. The history of Dream, and then the trail in Glacier National Park. Yeah. That's really cool. And learned all about your story. It's pretty awesome, Julie. You're amazing.
Thank you for giving me this platform. And
Absolutely.
Thank you for allowing me to elevate Dream's mission and our work in the community.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
A special thank you to our podcast guest. You can find all of her links in the description of this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit subscribe. You will be notified of future podcast guests. Follow us on our social media platforms and stay tuned for our next podcast chat with an amazing Montana woman.